Hi. What is your darkest family secret that you could never tell anyone? What I grew up with. I grew up with a stepmother who made life feel like walking on broken glass. She was obsessed with status, always cared about how everything looked to the outside world. That old phrase, what happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors, well, that was the rule in our house. I am 42 now, and I have a little one of my own. Looking back, I honestly cannot wrap my head around how a grown adult could treat a child the way she treated me. These days, I find myself ready to finally talk to my dad about everything. He was the kind of man who never really stood up, just let things slide, let her run the show. I am tired of keeping quiet and being the one everyone treats like the family's emotional punching bag. Though in truth, it was more like kicking than punching. That just feels more accurate to say. Everything she did was quiet and subtle around others, she saved the real damage for behind closed doors. She was something else entirely. A full-blown narcissist if you ask me, and maybe more, maybe a sociopath or even a psychopath. Always twisting stories around so she came out looking like the one who was hurt. Lying was second nature to her. Religion? She was not really into that. She was into looking religious. She liked to show up in church just to show off. If I so much as coughed during the service, she would drag me home and lecture me for hours, saying I was evil. Said I was the devil. No kidding. She would dig her sharp nails into my chest, yank my chin up, and slam my head into the stone fireplace. She used to make me stand in one spot for hours while she scolded me. I could not even cross my arms because she said it was a defensive posture. It got worse when I started going through puberty. If she caught me changing clothes, she did not care. I had to stand there half naked while she kept yelling, even if my younger stepbrothers or stepsisters were watching. I was just a kid, just starting to grow breasts, and I felt completely exposed and ashamed. I remember trying to learn long division in 4th grade. I could not figure it out fast enough, and she screamed, asking if I was stupid, then slammed my head into the countertop. Another time, she told me my real mom cared more about keeping the microwave than fighting to keep custody of me. She would randomly keep me home from school as a punishment, even if I did nothing wrong. Those days were long. She would yell at me every so often and lock me in my room. I was scared all the time. Staying home was awful, but school was not much better. I think other kids could smell fear on me. I felt like prey no matter where I went. If there is one thing she did teach me, it is who not to become. It never felt like some cycle I was doomed to repeat. I made sure to break away from all of that. After high school, I packed up and moved to the other side of the country. Now, I have a good life. I have a family I love, and we treat each other right. Still, I keep thinking about it. I want to figure out where to spend my energy and who actually cares about me. I plan to sit down with my dad next time I visit. I have carried this weight for too long. I just want some peace, maybe even a little freedom. My name is not mine. The last name I carry does not even belong to my family. My great-grandfather took it off a gravestone while he was on the run from the law. That is the name that got passed down to me. My great-grandmother found out the truth after being with him for 30 years and raising 5 sons. Turns out they were never legally married. That truth broke something in her. She ended up in a mental hospital down in New Orleans, and they gave her a lobotomy because of it. She was the one who raised me until the day she passed away. And let me tell you, she was incredible. A strong, kind woman who deserved better than the hand she was dealt. Born and raised in the South, she studied medicine back when women were barely allowed in schools, let alone in hospitals. But because of the times, she was not permitted to practice. So what did she do? She used that education to teach black children how to read, just to spite her father, who had been a proud member of the Ku Klux Klan. She made history, in quiet ways. She was one of the first women in Georgia to cast a vote and to get a driver's license. She pushed boundaries wherever she could, with grace and fire. I think about her all the time. Her name was Irene, born in the year 1899. Rest in peace, Irene. You were truly one of a kind. I had no idea this story would get so much attention. It makes me proud, really. I shared her story on social media once, on election day, because I felt like people needed to know. Especially women. If you are a woman reading this, please vote. Do it every chance you get. There were women like my great-grandmother who fought hard for that right. Irene did not just stand up for women, she stood up for everyone. She believed in civil rights, in fairness, in doing the right thing even when it was hard. As long as I am alive, I will keep telling her story. Two sides of the same war. I know others have mentioned stuff like this before, but I figured I would share my story too. I am half Japanese and half American. My grandfather on the Japanese side was drafted into the military during the Second World War. He did not want to fight, but back then, you did not get a say. He ended up fighting against the Chinese, though he saw very little actual combat. For the record, he was not involved in any of the horrific acts you read about. A lot of folks on the internet seem to think every Japanese soldier back then was some kind of monster, but the truth is, not all of them were. Some were just regular guys who were forced to do things they did not believe in. My grandfather only shared 2 memories from that time. Just 2. The first story was about when Japanese troops were pulling out of Shanghai. He and a group of his friends were waiting to board a boat. They flipped a coin to see who would get on the first one out. My grandpa lost the toss. He had to stay back. As he sat on the docks, he watched that boat, full of his friends and half his company, get blown to pieces by bombs dropped from Allied planes. The second story came at the very end of the war. His final mission. After the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, his unit was told to go in and look for survivors. That was the only thing he said about it. We were ordered to search for survivors. But all we found was ash. After the war, he walked a very different path. From the year 1950 all the way to 1998, he worked as a diplomat for Japan. He stood firm for peace, always speaking out against war. He kept quiet about his time as a soldier. No one ever heard those 2 stories, not until the very end of his life. Only my grandmother knew, and she never spoke of it. I only found out when he was nearing the end. It is a strange thing, realizing that a member of your family once fought on what most would call the other side. It is not exactly dark, but it makes you pause. Makes you think. The world likes to split history into good and evil, black and white, but real life is not that simple. My grandfather was not a hero, but he was not a villain either. He was just a man who lived through something unimaginable and came out the other side trying to make things better. The preacher and the hypocrite. I talk about this sometimes, but it is not exactly welcomed by my family. They consider it taboo, something you are just not supposed to bring up. But I figure, why not tell the truth? My mother-in-law is married to a man who is always preaching about right and wrong. He is the kind of guy who cannot go 10 minutes without mentioning how religious he is. He never lets anyone forget that his father built the church he now attends, although no one really knows what that means. Maybe he helped lay bricks. Maybe he just wrote a big check. Either way, this guy wears it like a badge of honor. He is real quick to call people out for things like cursing or living together before marriage. According to him, those are straight paths to hell. But here is the thing, he is a walking contradiction. A full-blown hypocrite. That man cheated on his first wife for most of their 20-plus years of marriage. And I am not talking about a one-time mistake. No, he had a long-running affair with my mother-in-law while he was still married. She was in her 40s at the time and eventually ended it because he would not leave his wife. But the moment his wife passed away, before she was even in the ground, he was at my mother-in-law's door, looking for comfort. He wasted no time. And he did not stop there. We know of at least 2 other women he was involved with over the years, each affair stretching on for quite a while. But somehow, in his eyes, cheating does not count as a real sin. According to him, missing church or saying God the wrong way is a much bigger offense than betraying your spouse. It gets under my skin, the way he talks down to people, especially the younger folks in our family. He throws out his judgments like confetti, acting like he is some kind of holy man. So when he goes on one of his little speeches about morality, I like to say my piece, loud enough for everyone to hear. You know what? It is true, I have not set foot in a church since the day I got married, 20 years ago. But I have also never once cheated on my wife in that time. Not even once. That was me at Christmas last year. It got real quiet after that. The family secret nobody talks about. There is something in my family that no one really talks about out loud. But I know the story, and I am going to tell it straight. My great-uncle Donald murdered his ex-wife so that he would not have to pay child support or alimony. That is the kind of man he was. After he did it, my great-grandmother stepped in to cover for him. When the police came by to ask questions, she told them he had been with her the whole night. Back then, in a small town, I guess that kind of thing was enough for the cops. They did not press too hard. Case went cold. My grandfather was just a kid at the time, playing around in the living room. He said he remembered hearing his mom lie to the police. He did not understand it then, just knew something strange was going on. But later, he put the pieces together. After killing his ex-wife, Donald ditched his own kid. Dropped the child off at their grandmother's house and walked away like it was nothing. Never looked back. He just left. Years later, when he was around 50, he got involved with a 16-year-old girl. Yeah, you read that right. And even worse, the girl's mother allowed it. Not because she thought it was right, but because she hoped he would sell her the horse ranch he owned for a cheap price. That was her angle. Her plan. When he did not go through with it, she turned him in to the police. She reported everything. In the end, he got arrested, but he did not serve much time. And somehow, she still managed to get her hands on the ranch. The whole situation was sick. The mother basically used her own daughter like bait to get property. No one came out clean in that mess. Donald is still alive today. He is not sitting in prison. He's just out there, doing shady stuff, pulling little scams to scrape by. That is the kind of man he always was. People in my family like to pretend it never happened. But it did. The monster in my family. There is a man out there who leads a French political group in Canada. You might even see his face in the news once in a while. What most people do not know is that he is a murderer and a predator. And worse yet, he is my uncle. He and one of his brothers stabbed my grandfather to death. My mother was only 7 years old when it happened, and she saw the whole thing with her own eyes. At the time, my uncle was still a teenager. Somehow, the whole thing got ruled as self-defense, so he never spent a day in prison. After the trial, he changed his name and tried to disappear into a new life. A strange thing happened just before the murder. My grandmother had updated my grandfather's life insurance policy, just days, maybe weeks before he died. Once the payout came through, they used the money to buy a new house and took a vacation. There was never any investigation. No inquest. The body was cremated, and the family shut the whole thing down. No one ever talked about it again. Years later, my uncle wrote a novel. In it, the main character was in love with his mother and killed his father. I wish I were making that up. My grandmother stayed loyal to him until the day she died, no matter what he had done. But that was not the end of it. I truly believe he hurt other people too, especially kids. There were whispers, stories that kept surfacing. He showed all the signs. This man used to torture animals for fun. He felt nothing. No guilt. No sympathy. Nothing. The word psychopath gets thrown around a lot these days, but if it ever applied to someone, it applies to him. His brother, the other one involved in the killing, ended up with a picture-perfect life. Wife, kids, the works. From the outside, everything looked just right. His children admired him. Looked up to him. But I cannot help but wonder what they do not know. My mother had a sister once. No one talks about her. She died when she was still a baby, and the cause of her death remains a mystery. It is like the family decided she never existed. And there is more. That same uncle, the one who murdered my grandfather, is also a sperm donor. Back in the 1980s, when he was broke and out of work, he sold his sperm to make some quick cash. I have confirmed 18 cousins who came from those donations. But there could be dozens more, maybe over 100. No one really knows. It is a lot to carry around, knowing that this man, with his smiling face and polished words, is still out there. Still pretending. Still lying. And people have no idea what kind of evil he is capable of. The silence that was never explained. When I was growing up, my dad always felt like a stranger. He was there, but he was not really there, if you know what I mean. He kept to himself. Quiet. Distant. Then one day, my parents got divorced. There were no loud fights or arguments leading up to it, no slamming doors, no yelling, no tension in the air. Just silence. The house was always clean and calm, and we never struggled financially. On the surface, it all looked fine. After the divorce, my dad basically vanished from my life. I hardly saw him again. It always felt odd, like there was something missing from the story. Something no one wanted to say. Then, in 2020, we heard through the grapevine that he had passed away. That was how we found out, just word of mouth. When the news came, my mom, for the first time ever, started opening up about the past. She told me that sometimes my dad would go completely quiet, like, totally mute. He would still go to work, still come home, but once he was back, he would not speak to anyone. He would not look at us, would not interact. Just existed in the same space without a word. I was too young to remember those moments clearly, but the way she described them made it sound like it happened more often than I ever realized. A few weeks ago, my mom shared something that really stuck with me. She said one night, years ago, she and my dad were at dinner with his parents, my grandparents. During the meal, my grandfather reached across the table and hit my grandmother. Just smacked her, right there in front of everyone. And nobody said a word. They all just kept eating like it was the most normal thing in the world. That story hit me hard. Ever since hearing it, I have been trying to dig into our family's past, trying to make sense of everything. It has not been easy. There is not much to go on, and no one really wants to talk about it. But I have a theory. I think my father grew up in a home full of abuse. I think he saw and lived through more than he ever let on. And I think that silence, the one he carried with him into adulthood, was his way of coping. Or maybe shutting down. Whatever it was, I believe he was hurting in ways I will never fully understand. Which family secret do you want first? Man, where do I even start with my family? Every branch seems to have its own mess, and sometimes I wonder how we even made it this far. Let us start with my mom's side. My grandfather, her dad, was adopted. His birth mother was an Irish Catholic woman who got pregnant outside of marriage. I do not know the full story, but the man who fathered him was someone important in their state. He had just had a daughter with his wife not long before, so when my grandfather came along, he was quietly placed with another family. Now, that adoptive family had a rough past. If you go back far enough, around 1906, there was a murder-suicide in the bloodline. It is the kind of thing that makes you understand why my grandfather was so angry about being given up. As if that was not enough, the couple who raised him turned out to be a violent drunk and an enabler. Worse still, they openly denied the Holocaust ever happened. That was the environment he grew up in. As for my great-grandfather on the other side, well, he was a child predator. Everyone in the family seemed to know it, but no one did anything. They just shrugged it off because his father had done the same thing. Like that somehow made it okay. My great-grandmother even helped to cover it all up. The only bright spot in that part of the story is when my granddad, furious and fed up, beat the man senseless on the front lawn right after my grandmother finished college. At least someone finally stood up to him. Then there is my dad's side of the family. My grandfather was a minister, supposedly a man of God. But he carried on a long affair with the church secretary for years. Eventually, he divorced my grandmother to be with her. I have not seen that side of the family since I was around 9 years old. My dad has a temper. He is the type to throw punches if things go sideways, so who knows what else has gone down over there since then. And believe me, it does not stop there. When we were both teenagers, one of my cousins tried to sleep with me. Yeah, that happened. And there was also that time my mom unknowingly married a convicted pedophile. She had no idea about his past until it was too late. Oh, and somewhere further back in the family tree, one of our relatives got pardoned by the governor of Kentucky for Ku Kluxing. That is not a typo. That was actually the term used. Real historical record. Add to that a long line of substance abuse, mental health problems, violence, broken relationships, and total estrangement, and you have a full picture of the chaos. Honestly, we have got it all.